So Allegra, Bianca and Alex, thank you for joining us today for this special event for the Sydney Breast Cancer Foundation, Love and Legacy. We really appreciate you sharing memories of your mother, but also the latest collection by Carla Zampatti. It's a very important cause. 1 in 9 women sadly lose their lives every day.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Edwina. It's something that we see also as a really, really important cause. So we were really delighted to be here and support those women who and their families who've been through such difficult times, and to continue to support the research to hopefully get through this.
So Alex, starting with you, knowing Carla like no other, what do you think gave her the ability to transcend fashion and really influence Australian life in all aspects, culture, arts, business and even politics?
I think that's a really good point. She was able to transcend fashion and really have an influence, win influence across a lot of different areas. I think of a lot of it was just that she had this crossover of both being a creative, but someone who had a really strong business mind. Of course, she won lots of fashion prizes and accolades in her life, but the first big prize that she won was as Australian Businesswoman of the Year. And I think that's what she really brought to all of her dealings in her boards, in her philanthropic boards and government boards and business boards, the mixture of the both. She was always pressing others to be a lot more creative or business-minded, and was quite outspoken about it wherever she went.
And on that topic, Bianca, what do you think really gave your mother the ability to see where women would be one day, what they could become, especially given the time she grew up in?
For Mum, I think her formative years where she grew up in Italy and her brothers and her mother ran the farm and her father was in Australia, nowhere to be seen. And I think that she just saw women running the world and it just transformed. She would carry as much up the hill as both her brothers could. She had this fierce independent spirit. She remembers telling me she was like under 8 that she was so proud she was left on the farm on one night on her own. And I think she just had this independent spirit, and then coming to Australia and seeing a land of such opportunity, it just made her say women can be everything. And she was not content in the roles that were available for women and just didn't think that anyone should be.
And Allegra, I guess that really defined a powerful woman. How did it change your perception of what a powerful woman was growing up?
So, Mum loved women running things. She would prefer, if a business was run by a woman, she would like that business more. That was her. And I think for Mum, she was really, I think, proud of what women could do. And I think a lot of that came from her own experience, because she had some very difficult times personally. And I think through those times, she learnt how strong she could be. And I think she learned how important it was to be independent and to be able to make your own choices. And so for Mum, I think power, and actually I think for me personally, power is that freedom and independence and the ability to make your own choices, whatever those choices are. So it's not about, who's running this or that. It's actually about yourself and saying, can I do what I believe I can, and have the confidence to pursue what is important to you. That, I think, is power. And that's what I have taken from her.
She certainly was a very powerful woman.
She was.
And Bianca, also, here we sit in this beautiful environment. Your mother had such a refined sense of beauty and aesthetics. Did that really influence you as a young girl?
Oh, I mean, I have so many visual memories of spaces, of moments that she would create, whether it was like chopping down this huge, we had magnolias, we had palms, it was the 70s, there was a lemon branch in there. She would just take half a tree and stick it in a vase and make a sculpture of it. Or Allegra and I were both talking about how she'd line up pears perfectly on a white platter and leave it on a table just in the corner. So there was always a visual feast in this, and the way that she would frame everything, it gave this there was this strong but really minimal and beautiful, and I don't know, just so tactile in how she didn't like things too perfect either. They had to have this form. So I think growing up in her world, we were always in touch with that beauty. And we're allowed to touch things, you know, like the sculpture you would touch, the couches, the paintings you would live on, the beautiful tables you would have glass on. You know, you wouldn't have a big tablecloth. It was very much a bit about this like real sense, you really have this feeling in your hands of everything around you.
What you talk about is so tactile. And I think that was one of the things about your mother. She was incredibly generous. I mean, the Carla Zampatti Design Award Foundation Design Award is a great example of that.
Yes.
What do you think it was that she wanted to do? She always wanted to make things better and lift everybody up with her.
She always wanted to share her experience, and she'd gone through a big journey, as Allegra said, and really wanted to share the benefit of her journey and her experience with others. She really was aching to take that lesson forward for everybody else to learn from.
Soon after she passed away, someone wrote to me on LinkedIn, a woman I hadn't met before, and she said, she just wrote to me and said, look, you know, your mum really wanted to see other women succeed. And she told me this story about how mum and her had a coffee, and mum had said, you know, so how can I help you? And so she had introduced her to Chief Executive Women. She had set her up with a mentor, and they had done a variety of leadership activities together, with lots of men, sort of, you know, the two women in the room. And this woman wrote to me and told me about how just mum had been a champion for her. And I just think, you know, that's, sorry, I'm going to be a bit emotional, but that is actually one of mum's greatest gifts, I think, was that she truly supported women and she truly wanted women to succeed. And I think, and she was willing to get behind them and support them. And I'm very, very proud of that. That's what she was like.
And it went well beyond, you know, just women. She was incredibly generous in terms of philanthropy.
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, for women, it's about how do you support women. But, you know, for migrants and the underdog, you know, she, for example, I run a charity which brings together students from low socioeconomic backgrounds and mentors, and also have scholars. And some of these kids are refugees or recently arrived migrants. And she came to one of our events and said, you know, these kids, they're just like me. She said, I see myself in all of them because they're kids who want to be the best that they possibly can be, but have lots of hurdles, but aren't afraid of them. And that's what she was like. So that's, I think, they're the essence of her, I think. And that really came out, I think, in philanthropy.
And how do you think that influenced her clothes, her designs?
Look, I think that her clothes were about, and I think this is our great aspiration, her clothes are about making women feel confident and making women feel beautiful so they can take on the world. And whatever challenge, if you're wearing Carla Zampatti and feeling great, that's what she wanted. And so that, I think, you know, that's the sensibility, that female sensibility. And then I think the other part is just the creativity of, you know, she loved beautiful things. If you wore a jacket that she loved, she would come over, whether it was hers or not, she'd come over and tell you that she loved it. And she was alive to beauty and creativity in all her ways. And I think that's really came out in her business, but, you know, that was who she was as a person.
She saw we had a deep culture, but she wanted us to, you know, really invest in it and push it forward.
And of course, fashion is intrinsically important and part of the fabric of Italian life.
Fashion and family.
Exactly.
And food. It's like the 3 Fs. I just think when I lived in Italy, all they talked about was family, fashion and food. And I was like, wow, you guys are amazing. You're really obsessed. And I think that those were, you know, her mediums of, I don't think it's by chance that you know, when I lived in Italy, I called up my sister and brother and I said, there's a whole country like her. She makes sense.
And I'd say one other thing I think she wanted for the industry is she wanted young designers to learn how to run businesses, because I think that's what she saw a lot, was really talented young people coming up in the industry, but not having the business skills to be able to turn it into, you know, a viable business, and that being really heartbreaking. Because she'd been that young designer trying to make it work. And so I think that's something that she always was really passionate about, is that, you know, fashion is an art, but it also has to be a business for it to work. And how do we help our young designers and our young creatives learn those business skills?
Yeah, she was a crusader for bringing business to creatives and creatives to business.
No, she was. Absolutely.
She didn't feel like they should be on other ends of the room at a party. She would literally, I would see her pick one businessman and introduce them to a creative director, and pick another creative director and like introduce them to business. Go, you two should talk. It was a really beautiful, and she had that marriage from the boards and everything like that. She really did connect those worlds in together.
I certainly had some of those experiences myself. How do you keep that legacy alive? What do you think she would want you all to do?
Follow her advice. No, I think, we've thought a lot about this, because for us, when we lost Mum, I think actually the thing that's been the thing that we're actually clearest on as the three of us has been about her legacy and what we want to live on. And I think it is about those pieces that I talked about. It's about her values, and her values were about women and empowering women. It was about the joy and beauty of multicultural Australia and supporting people to thrive. And it was about creativity. And those are really, I think, some of her most enduring legacies in Australia. And those are the things that we see as really our responsibility, I think, to try and to really continue that and to build on it. And I think that's what we take. It's quite a lot of responsibility. Honestly, it is, because she did make a big difference to people. But I think that's how we grew up, with those values. And I think those are the values that we want to take forward as well.
And I guess speaking specifically of her support for women.
And that's a journey that we're going through to work out how do we best do that. And I think it's something that we'll do more and more of as well.
And Alex, of course, the brand lives on, and we're about to see the new collection. How are you planning on moving the brand forward? What comes next?
Look, I think Mum was really best known for making things that last. Yeah. You saw that in her clothes, and I think that she really had a long-sighted view of the business as well. Bianca mentioned the merger between family and fashion as being quintessentially Italian. It was something that she did very much. She brought us into the business from a very young age. When everyone else was at school age on holidays, we were toiling away in the business, and that was really that was our shared family experience in the business for all of our school years. It was, for her, it was her life's work, but it was also her other child. And the four of us, or the five of us together, Mum, the three of us in the business, that was our time spent together. She really did, in the next chapter of the business, she really did see us as being the next chapter of the business. And the business has been around for 56 years, and our chance is to take that forward to the next 56. That's what we're thinking about. I mean, Edwina, you know what that's like, running Vogue Australia, that's been around even longer than Carla Zampatti.
Only Carla used to remind me, only 4 years. That's it.
Got a slight head start, but you would know what it's like. It's an enormous amount of legacy, but it's it's an incredible, wonderful thing that you get to build on that, those incredible foundations.
And I guess getting that design room in the next generation, right, is a big part of that, as it has been for Vogue. How do you go about that?
We have the most amazing team, and in Carla Zampatti in the business, and many of them have been with her for 20 and 30 years, and they're the real, they're the heart of the creative side of the business. I think between them and obviously my sisters, who are very much part of that team as well, it's really a story of continuity. We're really wanting to take that, keep building on that success, but it's the team is really in place, and it's something that she left with us, which we're very grateful for.
And of course the DNA is so strong, and this is something I'd like to ask you all. I mean, how do you carry that forward?
I think it's really interesting because Allegra and I and Alex have reflected on how definite mum was. And I think we are looking at her legacy. I think it was the greatest gift that she was so definite. You will look at a fabric and you'll go, oh no, that's so not mum. Or you'll be like, that's so Carla. She has, and it was so interesting because, you know, I think we call it now DNA because it is it's in our cells, it's in our blood, it's in our body, it's in our being. And I know that now people build brands and they're like building the DNA, but the Carla one, it was just felt. It was like at events, only white flowers, you know, what kind of music? There was always piano in it, or it might be a violin, you know, like there was just so many, what did a pattern look like? It had to be strong. There's no little fluffy, happy little tiny flowers here. You know, I just think that there was, you look at her house and it's all, the elements and objects they all have their own way that they stand out, but they have to fit in this like harmonious way and have an impact. And I think that as a designer, like, you know, with design, you're always looking for what's your frame, what's your picture. And I think the frame that she gave us for the picture inside is so unique that you know what can only go in that frame.
It's funny because there are also, like, I would say that Mum also did everything there was to do in fashion. She obviously did clothes, but she designed perfumes, accessories, jewellery, handbags, a car. She got a coffee table book I just see over here. It's just the immense design legacy that's out there that she left behind. So I think it really comes back to you know, her brand message and her values as well as the product, so it's bringing that message to the next generation of you know, loyal customers that it's really the exciting part.
And I guess my perspective on this is that, you know, mum saw clothes both for their beauty, but also, you know, come back to how they make you feel. And, you know, I think if we, you know, do our job and help and continue to give, you know, the people who support Carla Zampatti clothes that make them feel beautiful, but make them feel strong and make them feel confident, then that's when we will be living, you know, her DNA. And that's really, that's our objective, I think, as a family.
You know, they don't have such a strong memory of her, but she's going to be a giant in their lives, and really, to give them a sense of what she was like, you know, we're obviously encouraging them to get part of that experience from working in the business itself while they're at school and things like that. But it's really, you know, as your the purpose that is sort of galvanised us a bit has been, you know, the challenge of the next generation, and really bringing them up with similar sorts of values and mission.
But it sounds like she's left you all with a very strong frame with which to work it out. And one of those things is obviously work ethic. Yeah. I mean, it's clearly instilled in all of you a very strong work ethic. Would that be true?
Yes. Yeah, she's had quite a grueling. She had a grueling work ethic, and something she gave to each of us, and we've taken that in our respective
endurance
careers.
Tests, you know?
Yes.
And also a wonderful grandmother. I believe she had a lot of sleepovers too.
So my kids, poor Alex's kids, never got the sleepover, if the truth be known. But my children had sleepovers with their other grandparents, and then said, "So Nonna, when are we having a sleepover?" And since then, the next 5 just started coming in. But I think that she loved family moments. You know, she could be whoever on whatever, you know, in whatever role she played in the week. But on the weekend, she was, you know, no makeup, no shoes. And she was just, the door was always open. She always was about how did the clothes make you feel. And I always have a theme every season in the story and narrative. And she'd be like, I don't care. How does it make you feel? Put it on. What do you feel like? Where are you going? What are you doing? And I think that now it's become such a, let's say, a felt sense that whenever I'm like, I drape a lot on my body, and I've always been very tactile and very connected to it. And the way that things make you feel, there's such a transportive sense of that I remember, like, you know, after she passed, I was like wrapping something around, and I'm sure Allegra will remember this, and she would always go like this. You know, like, pull you in, go, you look better like this.
It must give you such joy. I mean, there must be joyful moments to see her legacy at work around you, to see the impact she's had on Australian fashion, Australian business, the arts, your own children. You know, how does that joy feel?
It's funny. It was actually really comforting to hear lots of people say lovely things, I must say. It was a bit overwhelming at the start, but you know, reading the stories about her, some of them were really funny, which actually really helped as well. And you know, I think that's really lovely, because I think it means that you don't feel like you lose them in the same way if you don't have those stories. So I'm very grateful to people who wrote to us and who shared, you know, who just shared their stories of mum. And I still meet people and they would say, I remember your mum did this, this and this. And that's actually really joyful for me. So it gives a lot of comfort. And, you know, I'm incredibly proud, I think, of mum. And I think, you know, I'm incredibly proud of particularly what her impact on individuals, and you know, that brings me pride, you know, all the time actually. So I'm very proud of who she was, and you know, and what she achieved.
I think that she, I think of her as being, I think she would be quite like this, is that she's actually a quintessentially Australian migrant success story. And I always thought she was like that. But after she died, we read so many of these international obituaries where she was in foreign language newspapers all through, particularly in Europe and in American newspapers. And I thought, this is quite an amazing thing. She had such a reach, which was very unexpected, makes us incredibly proud. But you know, it's that story of that you know, young Italian girl migrating to rural Western Australia without speaking a word of English, leaving before she'd finished school, and creating this amazing presence in business and fashion. I think that, you know, the reach of that story has just been breathtaking and very humbling, but absolutely lovely. You know, it makes us very proud of what she achieved.
For me, I think I thought a lot about the connection and the way that I've met so many people, some who've met her, some who haven't, all of who have watched her, and they all know her spirit. It's quite a wild thing. You know, there's something where the woman said to me, oh, when I put a dress of your mother's on, I know she made it for me. It was my dress. She was talking to me. And this other woman said, oh, when I put your mother's dresses on, I get a body lift. She knows my body so well. And then another woman said, oh, how does she know what I want before I know I want it? Like, and I think there was this kind of like, it's really like, it's energetic, it's in the air, it's in the spirit. She just had this way that she was so in tuned, and not like market research. She just was connected to women. She was fascinated by them. She would, you know, I should never come home from a dinner party and not tell me about this woman that she met
Wonderful
who did this
woman.
wonderful. Yeah, I know. There was all, she was deeply connected to them. And she was in a lift and you were standing there, she'd go, how are you? You know, like she just engaged. There was this deep curiosity and this deep connection that she was looking, and that she achieved with thousands of people, like, and they look at you and they're like, you can tell it's your mother, but they know her in this really intimate way. She's there with them in the fitting room. For us, the legacy is not how rich she was. It was definitely, obviously, she has an incredible impression on us, but how beautiful that she has managed to connect to that many people in that way. And as a fashion designer, you know, you're in it for the feeling, you're in it for the way that you you can transport, support, evolve, hold, comfort, inspire people on that every day, and you go on a journey with them. You know, they don't get to keep their beautiful house as they walk out of the door to work. They get to keep what you have and what they're, you know, you get to shroud them, you get to hold them. And she just held women up. And it was the most beautiful thing that they felt her holding them up.
Well, in true Carla spirit, we're going to be looking at the next collection, which I think she would be really thrilled about. And Allegra, Bianca and Alex, thank you. Thank you for sharing all your thoughts and memories with us today, but also for opening up Carla's beautiful home so that we can showcase the next collection.
Thank you. And thank you. And thank you also for the support of this really important cause. You know, we, you know, personally, we're really very passionate about that as well. And so very, very honoured to be connected as well. So thank you, Edwina.
Thank you.